thing, if these things were not cleaned ever, nobody ever cleaned their outdoor toilet. There would be wasp nests inside, there'd be spiders inside, there'd be leaves and debris blown inside, and I don't remember anybody keeping these things. They weren't a clean place. And normally that seat area would become very disgusting. It was not a good place to be. And I'll describe this in a delicate way. Most people, when they went in, either kept themselves off that seat in some fashion. And I remember children and men actually squatting above that opening with their feet up on the seat to keep their physical parts off that old dirty seating area. And of course that made it even rough. They'd come in from the fields and they'd track mud in and everything else, and it'd be all over the seat. And not pleasant at all. It was not good. But anyway, that was the structure, and we won't go into what happened in there, but you can imagine. There was no way, there was no flushing, there was no disposal, there was no pumping out. Nature had to take care of nature in these things, and nature would do that through, well, I'm not going to go into that part, but through natural insects, you might say, and their ability to decompose matter. The problem was taken care of, but not in a nice, clean way. And there was nothing to block your view or the vapors coming out of that thing when you were in this facility. It was not a good place to be. And like I said, these things were built out of rough timber, and nobody that I knew, for whatever reason, they certainly didn't run electrical lines out to them, so there was no lighting. If you went out to that outhouse or toilet, we called it, at night, you took a lantern or a flashlight, or you went in the dark, which was not a good idea considering things that crawl on the ground at night in rural Alabama, the rural South. So it was not lighted, for certain not heated, and if it's not heated, you don't need to be insulated. And not only was it not insulated, it wasn't, the cracks weren't even sealed good. Here again, maybe for ventilation, maybe you needed the cracks in the thing. Most of them had a little sloping tin roof on them, and no insulation. So when the wintertime came, it was the same temperature inside the outhouse as it was outside the outhouse. Wintertime was a little bit better because of the natural aroma of those conditions. Summertime was worse, and of course it was hot inside in the summertime. You had insects inside in the summertime. And Peter also mentioned how they did their paper, and I think he said they used cut up newspaper hanging on a string or on a nail. That's awfully nice compared to what I remember. People just didn't buy toilet paper. They didn't do that. And I didn't have money to buy it. And anyway, you had leftover papers from your other things. And in my memory, we didn't really get a newspaper that I remember that much in that time. But we did get catalogs. And in the South, one of the things everybody got was a Sears and Roebuck catalog. Big, thick catalog. This thing would be, we know what a Sears catalog is, or used to be, I suppose you do. But they were, 2 or 3 inches thick. And you got those things, I think, winter and summer. You got 2 a year. So when one season passed, you had a leftover catalog. Everybody had one. Just about a lot of mail order in those days because you didn't go to town that often. See, people mail ordered a lot of the things they had. So you had that left over, so you had to use it for something. So they used, in my area, it served 2 purposes. When you went to the toilet, you had something to look at, and then you also had the paper that you needed before you left the toilet in that one Sears and Roebuck catalog. Now, my memory too is you didn't just tear out a sheet and use that sheet. If you've ever handled a paper from those days, it's pretty rough. But what people would do, and you could hear it, you could hear it from outside the building. People, while they were in there taking care of their their needs would tear out 2 or 3 sheets of the catalog, and they would roll it up into a tight ball, and they would spread it out, and you'd hear them scrubbing it. They'd scrub and scrub and scrub that paper together. They'd move around, and what they were doing was taking those rough corners and that rough paper, and they were tenderizing it. They'd rub, you hear people just rubbing away. And you may want to try it. Get you a page out of a catalog or a magazine, and sample it, how slick and hard it is to when you first tear it out. But take it and do that. Roll it up, spread it out, and then scrub it, and it'll get soft. I don't. It's still not like toilet paper, so don't think you're gonna. But you might want to try it just to see how it was in those days. But here's another thing. At that time, most of the Sears and Roebuck catalogs had white, softer pages, but on their special pages, especially the ones that had color at that time, it was a glossy paper, and it was thicker and it was harder. So what you would find, and when you went into those outhouses, is slowly those better pages went away, and what was left were those rougher pages, those colored pages, those hard pages. And even those things, with all the scrubbing you wanted to do, it was not too good. Take my word for it. But that was a method. Now, some people, I noticed in the written responses down below, somebody and everybody's heard the tales of the South about the corn cobs, and that's not, and corn shucks, which is a whole different matter. They're very rough and just something you wouldn't want to use. But I think those both were used, probably in emergencies. But anyway, I want to tell you a little Southern joke, and most people in this area have heard it, so it wouldn't be funny to them. But considering that this may be seen in many parts around the world, when you grow corn, for whatever reason, I'm not an agriculturist for sure. For whatever reason, sometimes you come up with red cobs. The type of corn it is has red cobs. Sometimes you come up with white cobs. When you shell the corn off the cobs, you're left with the cobs. Some are red, some are white. You shell the corn off the cobs because sometimes you feed it to chickens and some animals that don't have the ability to bite that corn off the cob. So you shell it for them in a hand sheller we had. You store that shelled corn back and feed it to livestock. So you got the cobs left over. The story was, and I think I have seen this. I can't say that for 100%, but I think I've seen this, that some of the farmers would keep both color cobs in the outhouse. And the reason for that was the red cobs were for doing your work with, and the white cobs was to make sure you had done your work adequately, if you catch my drift. So that's as far as I'm going to go with that. On this video I have a picture of a southern outdoor outhouse. It looks a lot like what I remember one looking like. And I also, on here, I've listed a web address where you can go and learn all you want to learn about outhouses in the United States, old outdoor toilets. And I don't know how far I run. I think I run over my time, so this may end up being a either edited or a two-part video to get all this in. But it took that long to cover what I wanted to tell you about my memories of the rural South in the early to mid 1950s. And I could go on and tell you many other things about the conditions, living in those conditions. Now, if you want to visit my site, I may start a series on that. Like I said, my online name, my channel name is Messabout1, MESSABOUT 1, and I might start a series on that, talking about the conditions in the rural South in the 1950s. Let Peter cover England in his days, and maybe I can tell you about the rural South in my days. Like I said, I was born in 1945, so I'm now 60 years old, but have some memories of pretty hard times in the rural South. Good night.